You have 47 apps on your phone, a streaming platform with more content than you could watch in 3 lifetimes, and somehow you're still bored. But 200,000 years ago, humans sat in caves with absolutely nothing to do, and what happened in that silence built your brain's capacity for creativity, language, and consciousness itself. For a long time, scientists assumed our earliest ancestors were too busy surviving to get bored. Every waking hour was hunting, foraging, running from things trying to eat them. There was no downtime, no idle moments. That assumption turned out to be completely wrong. In 1966, anthropologist Marshall Solins published a paper that flipped the entire field upside down. He had spent years studying the Kung San people of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last communities on Earth still living close to the original human lifestyle. What he found was staggering. They worked on average 15 to 20 hours per week. Not per day, per week. The rest of the time, they rested, they talked, they sat around. They did nothing in particular. Solins called them the original affluent society, not because they had things, but because they had time. More free time than most people today will ever know, so the question was never whether ancient humans got bored. The real question is, what did their brains do with it? But what if the boredom came first, before we even needed to survive? Let's start with a cave in South Africa called Blombo's Cave. In 2004, archaeologist Francesco Derrico and his team published their findings about a collection of shells found at that site. The shells were 75,000 years old. Each one had a hole carefully drilled through it. Each one was coated in red ochre. These weren't tools, they weren't weapons, they weren't food. They were beads. Someone 75,000 years ago, with no electricity, no metal drill, no YouTube tutorial, sat down and spent hours, maybe days, turning shells into jewelry. That is the oldest known art object in human history. And it started with a long, empty afternoon. Think about what that actually means. Drilling through a shell with a stone tool takes patience that most people today couldn't sustain. And they did it not out of necessity, not for survival, but because staring at the wall of a cave wasn't good enough for their brains. Necessity didn't invent art. Boredom did. Think about that 75,000-year-old shell bead from Blombo's cave. Someone spent hours drilling a hole through it with a stone tool, not for survival, but just because they were bored. Comment your answer below. Now let's look at what happened when those same restless minds turned to sound. You cannot be bored without a concept of time. To be bored, you have to know that this moment is going on too long, that something else could be happening, that the future is real and it could be better than right now. Boredom is the first evidence that a brain has developed the ability to imagine things that don't yet exist. Animals don't experience boredom the way we do. A dog waiting for its owner isn't bored, it's just waiting. It has no concept of what else it could be doing, no awareness of alternatives. The human sitting in a cave 100,000 years ago, staring into a fire with nothing to do, that brain starts to wander. What if the hunt fails tomorrow? What's on the other side of that mountain? What happens when someone dies? Why does any of this exist? Every question religion has ever wrestled with. Every question philosophy has ever posed. Every question science is still trying to answer. They all started exactly the same way. Someone was bored and their mind refused to stay still. There's one more thing ancient humans did when they were bored, and it's the thing that mattered most. They talked, not about the logistics of hunting, not about food, not about survival. They told stories. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent years studying what humans talk about when they're not talking about anything important. His finding, roughly 65% of all human conversation is social gossip. Who did what? Who said what? What happened to someone you both know? That sounds like a waste of time. It absolutely wasn't. Dunbar's argument is that language itself didn't evolve for practical coordination, it evolved for social bonding. Before language, primates bonded through physical grooming. But grooming is slow. One-to-one language replaced grooming. Suddenly you could bond with 3 people at once. 10. A whole group sitting around a fire. Human civilization didn't emerge because we needed to coordinate hunting parties. It emerged because we were sitting around with nothing to do and we started talking about each other. Boredom invented gossip. Gossip invented society. Modern psychology has a name for what happens when you eliminate boredom completely: cognitive overload. When every moment is stimulated, the brain never gets to do what it was built to do in the quiet. Part of your brain that activates when you're doing nothing, called the default mode network, is the same network responsible for creativity, self-reflection, and empathy. It only fully turns on when you're bored. Smartphones, social media, and constant notifications keep your dopamine system overstimulated. Every swipe delivers a tiny hit of novelty, training your brain to expect continuous reward. When external stimulation pauses, dopamine dips sharply, leaving you agitated. We spent 300,000 years learning to fill silence with something meaningful. Then we invented the smartphone and we've been filling every silence ever since. But every time you put the phone down, every time you sit in a waiting room without reaching for it, every time your mind starts to wander and you actually let it, you're doing the same thing the person in the cave was doing. The thing that made the bead, the thing that made the flute, the thing that looked up at the stars and asked why. So how do you harness this ancient capacity in your modern life? Start with small windows of unstimulated time. When you're waiting for coffee to brew, resist the urge to check your phone. Let your mind drift. When you're walking from one place to another, leave the earbuds out. Notice what thoughts surface when you're not feeding your brain constant input. Try the 5-minute rule. Set a timer and sit with nothing to do. No book, no screen, no task. Just you and whatever thoughts emerge. First, this might feel uncomfortable. Your brain has been trained to expect constant stimulation. But after a few minutes, something shifts. Ideas start connecting. Problems you've been stuck on suddenly have solutions. Create boredom rituals. Take a shower without planning your day. Lie on your back and stare at the ceiling for 10 minutes before bed. Eat a meal in complete silence. These aren't meditation techniques, they're opportunities for your default mode network to do what it was designed to do. Most importantly, protect your transition moments. The space between finishing one task and starting another. The pause between waking up and checking your phone. The quiet minute before you walk into a meeting. These micro moments of boredom are where your most creative insights live. Your ancestors turned empty time into art, language, and civilization itself. The same neural pathways that carved those shell beads and told those first stories around the fire are still there, waiting for you to give them space to work. Boredom didn't hold ancient humans back. It's what made them human. Subscribe for more hidden truths about how your brain actually works and check out this next video.